Here. All right. So everybody, welcome to this class. This is all part of a series that I've been doing. And, basically, I feel like we are all involved in this major shift that's going on in music education right now. And, I put these classes together because I really want to define that for everybody. And I want everybody to really understand how they can flourish in this environment. So, you know, just a couple quick housekeeping things. Next week, there's going to be part 3 of this class, and that's going to be about creating community. Today, we're talking about creating content, how students can learn creating content. Next week, we're going to talk about how students can work together with that content. And I have a lot of students doing that, and it's also something that I'm doing as well with my colleagues. So definitely, if you were here last week and you're kind of seeing the arc being built that we're creating, definitely come and check it out next week. Spread the word. So I'm going to start out saying the same thing that I said in the beginning of last week's class. And this is such an important statement that I'm going to make. And, I think that we all have to hope for the best moving forward, but we have to also move forward with the spirit of innovation and the attitude of adaptability. Okay, look, I want things to return to normal just as much as everybody else, but I'm adapting. And I'm encouraging all of my students to adapt as well. I think that is so important right now. I cannot emphasize that enough, because I think if you're somebody who's kind of just hanging out, waiting for things to go back to normal, you're going to get left behind. You're not going to be playing, and you're at risk of not playing. And I think that somebody needs to say that. I know that might not be a very popular thing to say right now, but it's just the truth. And a lot of the trends that are happening right now are going to be with us even when things return. Those trends are here to stay. So it can be a very good thing for everybody, but we've got to get honest. We've got to get real about the situation that we're in. And that's why I'm doing these classes. So I start every class out talking about that. I'm going to share my screen with everybody so you can sort of see how I'm thinking here as I go through this. Give me 1 second. All right. And I put together these posts because they're supplemental. It sort of helps me also as I go through it. So, leveraging technology has always been a part of my business. Obviously, we were so busy prior to the pandemic happening that it was always a challenge. It was just always a challenge. If I wasn't doing something in the physical space, it was just always a challenge to get stuff going. But now, here we all are. And the truth is, so many students are being faced right now with a choice. Again, do you sit around and sort of wait for things to go back to normal, or do we try to find strategies to be successful? And, content creation is that strategy. And, basically, I think that a lot of the times we tend to think of content creation as sort of like, I'm going to make these elaborate videos and spend hours on them and upload them to my channel with 3 million, subscribers. And that's not how I want all of you to think of content creation. The way I design content creation for my students here is, it's anything that you can create to supplement and enhance your learning. Because remember, online content is king. Doing these things, making these things is king. So you have to sort of change what your, perception is. And, there are very, very simple things that you can do to be successful. And by far right now, while you're at home, while you're trying to get better, content is going to be one of your most powerful tools. And the other thing I love about content, and all of you who study with me, can attest to this, is that content, when you're working with students and when we're working to create content, we can really throw away the one size fits all approach. There are so many options. There's so much we can do, and every single student can find a way to make this work for themselves. And I think that is a wonderful thing. And I'm really happy about that because I've never taught that way. I've never thought about music that way. And, you know, now we actually have the tools where if you're willing to put in the time and the effort, you can actually create your own reality. And that is so exciting. I mean, to me, that's really exciting. And I talked about that a little bit last week, and I would definitely urge all of you to go on YouTube and check it out. I posted last week's class because a lot of the stuff I'm saying right now, you know, it directly relates to what we talked about last week. So I want to get into some of the very basic ways that you can start creating content. And today, you know, I have a bunch of students who are going to be presenting and also some examples I'm going to be sharing. And it's really exciting to me. Like this to me is, I mean, all of you who are doing this and all of you who have made the decision to just keep going and to make this happen for yourself, there are tremendous rewards for you. And I just want to let you know that I see it every single day. It's just such an amazing thing to see that happen and to know that in a world where so many people are kind of meeting and going, what now? You know, it's like the latest web seminar on music. What now? What are we going to do? I mean, I don't think that way, guys. And I know all of you who know me know, I don't think that way. I'm not in the what now mode, okay? I'm in the let's do this mode, okay? And I think, again, I would urge all of you to be that way too. It will help you, okay? All is not lost, I assure you. Okay, so practice logs are by far one of the easiest ways that you can create content. Now, some of you, and you know, I'm looking at you, Julian, right now. I just see you over there, man. Julian is one of the most epic note takers that I have, which is awesome. And we had a couple others. I know Saya's with us today too, you know, like, and I'm going to show you Saya's practice log in a second. I showed it to everybody last week. Students have been doing this for a long time. But the thing is now that we're online, we've got to find ways to sort of document this stuff, and we've got to find ways to hold ourselves accountable. And I think the very act of just creating a practice log, and all my students know I shared with you, you know, assessments, and then I put all of your assignments on those logs. And it's just a thing that we have it going back and forth. We can pivot off of that. We can propel ourselves forward. I'll just show you a couple quick ones. You know, one of them is Addie's, and in practice logs. Hey, Addie, how are you doing? Yep. You know, practice log can be as simple or as complicated as you want it to be. Like Addie's is really simple. She's working on stone killers. We talked about this last week, solving some of her problems. And definitely, like, here it is. It's just numbers, you know, metronome markings, 1 click a day. But what I know and what you don't see here is 2 months later, Addie is now very far along. We can document that progress, and she's held herself accountable. Or here's Saya's practice log, which is much more detailed. I mentioned it again last week. I'm going to show you here now. This is a great dialogue she gets going for herself. That dialogue carries over into the lessons. I take it very seriously. And I mentioned Julian before. I don't have his example, but Julian literally has a notebook full. I mean, that's pretty accurate, right, Julian? Like a notebook full of, and you know, I mean, I just know that, like, you know, and sometimes Julian would be coming in once or twice a month because he's traveling and he's sort of coming in. And I know he's going back into that notebook. Again, you're getting that dialogue going. And it's just that, you know, the 3 students I just mentioned are having tremendous success right now. And all of you, you know, you think about those Google Docs and you think about just the fact that we put that in, everything's in the cloud. It can be as much or as little, as dynamic as you want. You can change the font. You can have fun with it. Whatever you want it to be. Make it creative. Make it something that holds you accountable. But it's very, very easy. And I just know that sometimes some of this stuff sort of seems like very obvious. Or maybe you think you don't need to do it. But I can just tell you, I have a great memory. And even with my memory, I mean, what I did 2 months ago, I might remember some of it, but I don't remember all of it. A practice log helps you do that. We all need to be accountable for our progress right now. Okay, videos, everybody knows. Everybody in my studio knows right now. I am saying to you, make me videos in between lessons. And I just have my student Dakota here. She has a we have a folder. It's uploaded into the Google Drive. I'm just going to show you. This is a video that she actually made for her lesson. I'm going to have to make this a little smaller. She made this video for her lesson today. It's just a quick video. I think her assignment was something like put together a couple beats in 6/8. That's right. Write me 3 beats in 6/8 because she's learning how to play in that time. Here it is. Very easy, very quick. Check her out. Okay, so the thing about this, and I want everybody to understand this, when we're talking about videos, right now we're in an environment where we can't get together and play simultaneously, right? We can't get together and we can't sort of have ensembles. We can't be in an orchestra or we can't be in percussion ensemble. And I think we all have to think about doing right now. What are ways that we can do things and hold ourselves accountable and make this real? I have found in my own life, and I have found for so many of you, that just the act of, you put your phone down, you hit record, you try 5, 7, 10 times to get that take. It's hard, right? Many of you have been in that situation where like, third, fourth, you just still can't get it. Well, you know what? You're actually doing the playing now and you're executing. And I've told all of you this, and I'll say it again. Learning online is execution based, okay? Like it's about back and forth. It's not the same as when we're in the physical space together. And I do think eventually the technology will improve. I think, 5G's rolled out, and I think you're going to see faster internet connections. You're going to see the opportunity for us to play simultaneously. I do believe that's coming at some point, especially now, okay? But you have to create an environment for yourself where you are learning by doing. And videos, they bridge the gap. This is not about, I think sometimes students misunderstand. They think I'm going to spend all morning watching their videos before the lesson, and that's not happening. I might check it really quickly. Sometimes I critique it in real time in the lesson, but this is all about you. That's what this is about. This is all about you, being accountable and creating a positive dynamic where you are actually doing as a part of your learning. And, Dakota, I just showed you, Dakota, this little picture right here, she's got a whole folder of videos. And I think actually, Jeff, I think I saw you just sent me something right before the lesson, Jephthah. So,
Yeah.
Yeah. So, this is now happening. Stuff's rolling in all the time. Julian sends me tracks all the time. Addie sends me stuff. Billy, all you guys, I'm just looking at the bottom of my screen. I have, and the more organized you get, the better. And I think it's a very, very positive thing. And I'm going to say this because this is the last sentence I wrote, and it is so important. I'm going to just be redundant and read it. I've noticed time and time again that students who regularly make videos as a part of their lessons are, on the whole, having better outcomes online. I am seeing this. I have been doing this now full-time for 2 months. Okay, if I've asked you to make videos and you're not doing it, or if you're a teacher, I know some of you are teachers here, you're not in my studio, and you might have the students that just won't do it. They're again, we're waiting for things to go back to normal. It's just not what I want to do. You're going to have trouble learning online, and you're going to have trouble finding positive outcomes for yourself. Okay, there are no half measures in this environment, ladies and gentlemen, none. Okay, it's a tough environment, but you can flourish. And I want to be very clear about that. You can absolutely flourish, and we're going to prove that to you today. Okay, let's talk about using a DAW. Let's talk about using a digital audio workstation. Okay, all this is something that lets you make tracks. It lets you, you want to record a drum beat, you record a drum beat. You want to put a marimba part on top or a keyboard part, you put a keyboard part on top. Now, this is something that I've always done. I've worked as a producer before. It was a part of my life, not a full-time part of my life, but it's always something I've been into. Some students had already been working on this with me prior to everything shutting down. Now, many of my students are working on this with me. And let me explain why. You know, it is, again, it's just a very powerful tool. And this is the world we live in and the world we're going to be living in. You know, even if, you know, we all went back to normal tomorrow, there is so much value here for students. And I think we all knew this prior to COVID-19, but I think that, again, the trend is just accelerating. And I've been saying, and I know many of my colleagues have been saying for years, you know, it's like if you study music, you've got to learn how to use this stuff. And I think, you know, we're going to prove that, I think, in our student example. So I don't want to dwell on it too much, but I can just say that, you know, basically in traditional music education, this kind of stuff is considered only for producers or only for composers. And I just want to tell you that's dead wrong. It's always been dead wrong. It's dead wrong now. And everybody needs to be open-minded about technology and learning. Look, you don't have to be a master of Pro Tools or Logic or GarageBand. You just have to get good enough to use it as a tool to enhance your learning. And that is a very, very personal thing, right? That's something that it's something for each individual to decide. But the idea that somehow that's just a tool that, you know, should only be for composers and producers and all instrumentalists can do is read music off a page, you know, is just insane to me, especially when you talk about how just absolutely creative and dynamic and fun this stuff is. So, you know, GarageBand is basically what most of you are going to be familiar with. I've been a Mac user for a long time. I wasn't always, but for a very long time. And it comes with every Mac. It's very easy to use. I have a quick link here on the blog if you want to just check out a 10-minute video of somebody talking about how to get started. When I talk about doing arrangements, this is definitely one way to do it. And if you have a Windows computer, here are a couple other options. And as I say here, I have to confess, I haven't used those other options myself. But, you know, check it out. There are lots of different ways. You know, there's not just one way. Okay, GarageBand is just what you're going to probably encounter right away. And on that note, you know, when you're doing recording and when you're trying to put this stuff together, you know, and I know this is probably a very unpopular opinion, but I'm all for, and all of you know this, I am all for saying, hey, look, get started using the mics on your computer. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that sounds good. I'm not going to sit here and say that's professional. It's not. But you've got to start somewhere. Okay, you're 15, 14, 16, 18. You are trying to learn how to make music and arrange music. Why would you go out and spend $3,000? Why would you go out and spend $200? Get started. It's all on your computer. I know many of you have actually found that by having to do this on your computer, you've learned so much about placement, right? Just moving things around and learning how. So then guess what? You learn about that. You learn, oh, here's how the drum set records. Here's how the marimba with all that crazy resonance records. You know, here's how we do that. And then guess what happens? You build the knowledge base to know exactly what you need to purchase, and you are ready to go when you make that first purchase. So I do not suggest putting the cart before the horse. You know, start with what you have. Yeah, I have really nice mics. I've been doing this a long time. Okay, but start with what you have. And I think today you're going to hear, I think Addie and Saya are using what they have and they sound great. You know, so I think that's where you want to be with this stuff. And just going on, you know, talking about doing arrangements. I mean, so many of you are drum people, right? And it's like so many of you are also mallet people. You play drums and you play mallets, okay? I mean, many of you have done that work with me where you sort of, I mean, so many of you you've done drum lessons for 6 months and then you start learning mallets or vice versa. And, you know, a very common assignment I will do, and I know I did this recently with Addie, and many of you have done things like this where I'll just say, okay, take a chart like Autumn Leaves, you're going to make me a drum track, a bass line, chords, and a solo. Okay. And, again, this is just how you use the technology, how you leverage the technology. I give assignments like that in this environment all the time. And, making arrangements is really positive. And then even more positive, some of you are just working on pop tunes you love or other things you love. And I mean, learn how to do that. That's exactly what you're doing. If you're studying modes, if you're studying scales, and many of you are, you're in that kind of area right now. One of the best ways I know how to use that stuff, or learn how to use that stuff, and probably the only way, is you have to learn songs that use it, you learn how to hear it, and you learn how to lay it down. And so using GarageBand, making arrangements, that can help you. And then if you're just a drum student, okay, and this is important, I mean, we've all had that experience where, we end up basically trying to record something on GarageBand and we realize, wow, time is terrible. I have terrible time. And I think right now that's a positive thing. I know that for many of my colleagues and myself, that was a lesson we had to learn the hard way. I don't want you to learn it the hard way. Okay. Like, learn it on GarageBand on your computer. And listen to me. Don't wait until you go to a gig or something and you realize, oh my God, I'm thinking this famous Dave Weckl story. And it's just like, I don't know, John, if you know this story, it's just like, yeah, it's this, he talks about, he's like playing this gig, and Dave Weckl's like one of the greatest drummers ever. And he's like playing this gig and he's like, oh yeah, man, I was just sounding great. I was killing it, man. And then he goes back and he listens to the recording and he's like, oh man, my time. And this is one of the greatest players. And I've been there. I have been there, everybody. And I don't want you to be there. So this happens to the best of us. And when you are a drum student and you're trying to make these loops and you're trying to put stuff together, you're going to find very positive outcomes all the time. Okay. So I also I have to talk about drum covers. And Billy, I've got one of your examples here to show everybody. Yep. Hey, Billy, what's up, man? So, full disclosure, a lot of my students use the EAD10, the Yamaha EAD10 to make drum covers. You do not have to do it that way. Full disclosure, I am a Yamaha dealer. I do sell the EAD10. I'm a big fan of it. But you don't have to do it that way. There are many ways to make awesome drum covers. Just ask Julian, okay? Like, you can do it a million ways. But I wanted to show, like, Billy is like in 5th grade and he's doing this. And the thing is that, like, to me, this is like the coolest thing ever, is that, you can have a 5th grader who is just 100% on board with content creation. He uploads tracks every week to his YouTube channel. And I just want to show you, and this is just another example. If you use the Yamaha Rec and Share app, which is, if you can see this picture, it allows you to make a video and a recording of you playing, and then you can do drum covers. So here's what Billy's been working on.
Can you share the audio, Simon?
Yeah, let me give it a shot here.
And how you play it, all about you. And if you can take it, all about you. And if you can play it, it's all about me. Who's gonna make it? I am the game, you don't wanna play me. I am.
Anyway, we could probably listen to that all day. I think we all agree. But you get the idea. Thank you, Billy. But, you get the idea for what kids are doing right now. And it's just very exciting. And again, like right now we have a small sliver of the students that I'm working with here with us. This is going on. It's going on across the studio. It's going on in other studios. It's very exciting. So, doing these covers and doing all this stuff is really, really important. Now, there's one more thing that I just want to point out to everybody, and this happens, and I get this a lot, and I just feel like, so I get it so much, I wanted to bring it up, which is, it's like, what if I'm not creative? Like, what if well, that sounds great, Simon, but I don't know how to do an arrangement. I have no idea where to start. I don't know what to do. This is stuff that's out of my skill set. I just want to put music on a stand and read it. And I just want to go to orchestra. Okay. Okay. Well, here's the thing about that. You do not have to be creative to do this. So let's just say, and I could take any one of you, who's here. I'll just pick somebody. Let's just say like Saya is learning how to play a bossa nova. Okay. And, she's like, all right, I got to put this together. I don't have a creative bone in my body. Well, all you have to do is put GarageBand on and just start making loops of yourself playing the bossa nova. And then maybe take stick control out and start doing the columns. You don't have to be creative to be creative. You can be resourceful, and you can think of it as you're making up fun ways to do the work that you and I are doing, or you and your teacher are doing in lessons. And that, to me, is where you might have to have a starting point. Because for so many of you, creativity might not just come right away. And I understand that, but a starting point is a very positive thing. And I always emphasize that to students. I just say, look, what are you working on right now? Oh, stick control, page 11. Okay, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. And all right, well, put on a loop and play along with it with a metronome beat. Do something different. Use the technology, leverage the technology. That's not creative. You're just reading, but you're doing it in a different way, and you're using the technology to make your learning dynamic. And right now, creating that reality is so important for you, because not only are you actively doing that for yourself, but you are also becoming more acquainted with your learning as an individual. And I got news for you. We're all sitting at home as individuals. That's what we got. Okay, so you have to learn how to use it, and you have to learn to use the tools. Next week, we're going to talk about collaborating and community. Okay, but this week we're talking about content creation. So if you're not creative, that's what you can do. And I would encourage you all to experiment as much as possible. I certainly do. Those of you who are studying with me, you probably are noticing I have a different setup this week. I'm constantly changing the setup. I'm constantly changing what I'm doing. And that is really, really important for all of us right now. So we have some student presenters. I always think like the best way to explain all this is let me turn it over to a couple of students who are succeeding in this environment. And, again, like I just want to point out, and it's really important I say this, I'm working with about 30 students right now. And look, what you just saw Billy do, I got 5 other students doing it. Okay. What you just saw Dakota do, everyone's doing it. Okay. This is going on. And if you're not doing it, you're going to have trouble getting results. So, Addison, Saya, and Julian are going to present. And I'm actually going to start with Addie and Saya just because you guys actually have a presentation. So maybe I'm going to turn it over to you. Go ahead, please.
Okay, I just need to share my screen.
Yep.
Okay. So me and Saya were working together on 2 different projects. So we just wanted to talk about those.
Yeah, so we first thought about a song that we both enjoyed. And the one we chose was LA Devotee by Panic at the Disco. And we divided up the parts. So Addie played the drum part and I played the harmony and melody on marimba.
all we have so far, but we're working on it.
Awesome. That is awesome.
So we're also working on, we decided we wanted to do like a different kind of sound for our second project. So we decided to do I Don't Want to Be You Anymore by Billie Eilish. I'm playing marimba and piano, and Saya's on drums. So yeah. So we wanted to talk about some of the obstacles we faced during these two things.
So when we first started, for me especially, because I didn't start as a drummer, and something that's been hard for me for a while is having like an internal feel. And I was realizing that I wasn't playing on a consistent part of the beat when I was making recordings, and I would play either on the front or the back and never like straight on, or at least not on a consistent part of the beat. So I think this process has helped us both like think about our overall feel and really being picky about our recording. So every time we're like, is this going to be good enough and on time for the other person to play along with?
Yeah. And for me, as Simon mentioned, I've been working on stone killers to try and improve my hands because I was having trouble playing fast enough for one of the songs for LA Devotee. So I tried to work on creating loops so I wouldn't have to play as much, and so it would be easier on my hands. And I wrote, we're trying to adapt to what we're given. Me and Saya used to see each other like every week, and so it's a big change for us to have to like only communicate by email or by phone, and to have to do this whole thing by email and GarageBand is a big change for us.
For sure.
Yeah. And we also wanted to talk about the like what we've learned from this experience.
Yeah, so we did LA Devotee first, as we said, and we did the melody part before adding in the drum part, which for us presented an issue in terms of just lining the parts up. And Simon made sure that we understood that laying down the drum part first doesn't necessarily solve the issue of timing. It's also like both of us being really picky about our feel. But the second time we just tried to address that by laying down the drum part first, then putting the melody and harmony over it. And we think that it went a little bit better. And as I said, striving for the best possible sound and time in terms of setup and every time you're recording has been really important for us.
We also figured out that, like, we figured out pretty early on that it's really important to establish a clear timeline. Because I know if like me and Saya hadn't like looked at it, because we both have a lot of tests going on right now since it's the end of the year. So if we hadn't looked at it and been like, here's what we can do in this amount of time, and here's what we can't do, it would have been a disaster. And mainly for I Don't Want to Be You Anymore, I learned how to navigate GarageBand really well. I'm still learning, but I'm trying to add in more effects. Me and Simon talked about using effects. I tried to use a little bit of reverb and, like I said, creating convincing loops and stuff. So. That's it.
Well, I think that, I mean, one of the big things that I just want everybody to, and that was awesome, Addie and Saya. Thank you so much. I mean, that was just great. And one of the big, yeah, seriously, like seriously. I mean, one of the big things that I want to say that when it comes to takeaways is that, there are no, I'm going to repeat this, there are no half measures online. You see that they had to think about everything. And that goes for every aspect of your learning right now. But if you put the effort in, whether you're just doing a practice log or whether you're doing a bigger project like this, you're going to get results. And I think what you can see is that Addie and Sarah have both not only learned a lot, but they're also putting the effort in. And that is just something, it's like I'm like a broken record saying this, but you have to realize I've seen sort of every variation at this point. And the students who are holding themselves accountable, the students who are putting the effort in, who are being thoughtful, who are being shrewd in their decision making, are the ones who are getting the best results right now. So I think that you see that going on. And, that also goes into setup, just thinking about whether it be for a lesson or whether it be for a recording. But, that's the environment we're in right now. I think sometimes people might think it's easier to be in an environment like this, but it's not. You have to put all of that effort in. But if you do, I mean, look at what happens. And that to me is like what's so special about this, because Addie and Saya, I mean, are both classical players, really, when it comes down to it. I mean, that's what you might not realize, and now I know Addie is going to be attending the Berklee songwriting seminar this summer. I mean, this is something that she's discovered. And Saya, who really like started out as a classical mallet player, is now a full-fledged drummer and arranger and doing chord charts. And, look, music is just a language, and we have to embrace it that way. So, by being open-minded and putting the effort in, you see the results. And I applaud you both, not only for what you did for yourself, but for being such great role models for everybody. And because this is really what you have to do right now. And if you do it, you're going to see this is going to be a very, very positive time for learning in your life. So, yeah, Julian, man, I know that you have a totally different story and a different approach. And I definitely want to hear that approach, man.
What's going on, everybody? My name is Julian Pavone, and I started seeing Simon, I'd say getting close to a year and a half, maybe 2 years. But when I first went to see Simon, I just started as just a drummer, and I was working on trying to get better at jazz. And as we kept moving along, Simon introduced me to playing mallets. And once he introduced me to that, then it led me into a totally different direction that I wasn't really thinking about when I wanted to pursue a music career. So I started producing music very heavily, and it's a really like enlightening experience a little bit for me, because it allows me to just create and have fun. And I think that's a big part of, being able to create music, is focusing on having fun, and then the creative side will come out eventually. So I have a track I've been working on called, I just like to call it Sky is Blue, because I have a friend, her name is Sky, and she's got like, she's been sad recently, and I've just been trying to help her out. And a lot of it is just because, that's what's going on in my life right now. And that's how I like to create my music, just however I'm feeling or whatever I'm thinking about. If I'm thinking about the future, the past, the present, that's how I like to show it in my music. So I'll just play it through, and then I can talk about it after. So that's what I have. And at least for me, when I started producing music, I was using GarageBand. And I definitely agree with Simon about just using what you have at the moment and then seeing what you can do from there. Because with that track was made on Logic, and with Logic, there's just a lot more. And I know for me, it was a little overwhelming at first, but I made sure that I had a good foundation in GarageBand because that just allowed me, because they work essentially the same way, just Logic has more sounds. So definitely focus on getting the groundwork and then see how you feel and what your thoughts are. And you can decide if you want to move up or if you want to move, or stay where you're at. So yeah, that was my track.
Julian, that was awesome. If we could all just sort of give it up for Julian. And I just want to ask you, Julian, because, and I'm gonna probably embarrass you a little bit, but I think it's appropriate because I think that everyone needs to know your background a little bit. Julian is, what we used to call when I taught at Juilliard, a child prodigy. He started very, very young. And I think a quick Google search will kind of show you he's been playing for years. And I think that when we met each other, sort of the story was like, okay, what now? Like I can play everything, I can do everything. What now? And that's how we got into jazz, because it was kind of like, well, you don't know about this, so let's start there. And after about 8 months of that, and it was really just drummer to drummer at that point. We started to talk mallets. And, what you don't see, because Julian actually produced that, he played that on keyboard and put it together. But what you don't see is that we have actually been doing very rigorous mallet lessons where he's learned the language of how to do that stuff. And, what I'm especially proud of with Julian, and I think that everybody, and me included, can learn from this, is it does not matter what you've accomplished before. You need to be humble and you need to learn. And, so many people with Julian's background, like I think, Julian, you hold like the Guinness Book of World Records for being the world's youngest gigging drummer. What is it? Something like that?
Yeah, so I have the Guinness World Record for being the youngest professional drummer in the world. And what that means is I'm the youngest person to, I think it's perform at 20 different shows, 45 minutes or longer. They had to be paid gigs and no breaks. So I did that before I was 4 years old.
And I think, unfortunately, we're glitching.
My whole background, my whole website. But you'll also see that I haven't done much since I was younger. And because I reached a little bit of a hiatus when I was about 12 or 13, maybe even 11, of just not really knowing where to go next. And then that's how we got into the jazz and then music production, because I also have a big business passion because my dad's into business and my grandparents. So it's something that I've always been passionate about because I love the idea of just being able to run yourself and work, not alone, but be able to work for yourself. And so from a business perspective, I knew that I wasn't able to go forward much more with the drumming. And then I experienced the world of jazz and then the mallets and then producing. And then it all started, like coming up again.
And what I just think is so important, and thank you, Julian, for just like openly sharing that with all of us. And, I think that, what's so important to understand is that that's the nature of the world we're in right now. We've got to be open-minded. We've got to be in a position where we say, okay, I need to learn how to do things differently. I call it adaptability. I mean, for me, it's like, let's adapt. Let's not sit around and wait. But I think a lot of people, and I just look at Julian's situation, a lot of people would have taken an opposite approach. They would have said, no, I don't need to learn anything. And the truth is, learning anything, not just music, I mean, this is about humility. You've got to learn. I might have the biggest type A personality you're ever going to see, but at my core, I'm humble. I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to improve. And I think that, that for me, watching Julian, sort of come in here like, okay, and just be like, let's just level the playing field. And now you see the results, you see what he's doing, and he's only going to get better and better. And actually, Julian, Addie, and Saya are all about the same age. 3 examples of people who are just going to get better and better and better. You're just seeing the beginning, and that is so exciting. And personally, it's an honor for me to play a role in that, or whatever small role I play in that. But beyond that, when we're looking at creating a new paradigm for learning, that's success right there. And that's not success online or success, COVID-19 afterward. No, that's real human success. That would have been success 3 months ago. That will be success a year from now. And that's what I'm interested in. I'm not interested in dumbing everything down, and just saying, oh, yeah, like we're online. Let's just do the best. No. I want you to flourish. And I take this really seriously. And I think that, I just want to thank you, Addie, Julian, and Saya, for showing us what that looks like. And, I know that so many of my students, when I receive these videos, when I receive all these things, when a student puts that effort in, like let me share a Google Drive with you. Here are the 3 tracks, the 3 grooves, or Jep just sent me something. I just know you're taking your life seriously and you're taking your learning seriously. And that's what I'm about. And that's why we have to adapt and be positive.